So we're here to talk about specifically how to build a top-notch team. Let me actually go to kind of introducing myself. So many people in the industry know me because I was for about 7 years. I was the North American brand everything for Compass Box Scotch whiskey. For those of you that know that, it's a small artisanal blended Scotch whiskey. And it was at that time when we actually had to spell the word artisanal at that time. And so it's sort of like the leading edge of the small brand that was actually out in the marketplace. About 4 years ago, I left and started my own consulting company. I refer to myself as a Sherpa for small brands. So essentially what I do is help small brands get ready to attack the summit. I know that everybody wants to get to the top of the mountain, but I also know that if you don't pack correctly, if you don't know how to read the weather maps, we're going to see your body on the side of the mountain. And as it is in Everest, it'll be there forever as well. So I help plan this, the sales strategy, the marketing strategy, and I start with something that I call the BARD of brands, which is creating the narrative foundation from which everything comes out. I'm also a whiskey educator. I've got the longest running whiskey education program in the United States called Whiskey Smackdowns at the Astor Center in New York, now in its 10th year. And I'm actually proud to say I just wrote my first book. It's called The Complete Whiskey Course and is available as of October 1st this year. So let's talk about a team, the concept of a team. And I put a very, very simple definition here to help us understand exactly what this means. And just from a dictionary's perspective, it's a group of people with a full set of complementary skills that are brought together in order to finish a task, a job, or a project. So that is our dictionary definition of a team. But obviously we know that it's a much more nuanced understanding of that. And if you take our 4 examples that I placed up here, starting at the top, when we think of team, especially in the West, and all of the emotion that comes with that, everyone loves to be part of a team, whether it's your city or your country, your school. Everybody has a very deep emotional investment with what it is to actually be a team, so that when they are together and they win in a competition against another team, we all feel this sense of elation that goes alongside with it. So that's one nuance of the team. Another nuance would be the idea of going on a quest together, as we have in the middle here with our fellowship. The idea that people are brought together specifically in order to move in one direction, and in so they grow. And they grow the bonds between them as well as grow individually. And fostering that type of a team is a different type of a nuance as well. Then there's times when a team has to come together and just do one thing. And anybody who knows that, for example, in the United States, we have something called OND, right? October, November, December. It's the only industry I've ever been in my life where three months out of the year gets their own acronym, right? OND, it's when everyone's got to pull together and get over the finish line, right? Has got to make that number, get those points of distribution, get that the pull through going. And then there's something that's sort of like, typified by the Marx Brothers here, where there's a sense of not only camaraderie, but timing, and a sense that when they're together, they elevate themselves into a whole other area. There's almost like the Zen of team. And that's another nuance of what team is as well. The problem with that, well, not the problem, but the idea of this is this goes back, and I can almost make the argument, I'm sure many anthropologists can make the argument, that it's encoded in our DNA, right? We've been programmed since the early times of humankind to act in accordance with each other in order for us to all survive and then get to the next step together. Our language was created in order for us to communicate between team members. We have this natural affinity for each other to group together, to get succor and ease from each other, as well as to go out and actually bring down the mastodon, to bring it back into the cave in order for us to survive till the next day. So we've got this internally set inside of us of what it is to be a team member. The problem is today. The problem is in the modern condition, we also have this contradiction of the individual. And for most of us, we understand, especially in the West, where this becomes an absolute counter narrative to what the team is, because we not only laud, but we actually place sometimes the rogue in an element of height, because we feel that that is the person that can break the boundaries of organization, break the boundaries of the team, and go off on their own and create or accomplish something that a team itself would not be able to do. Of course, I've got Ayn Rand up here. She was probably the modern idea of what it is for the individual to go alone. Howard Rourke blowing up the buildings at the end of the Fountainhead, for example. James Bond, right? 007 has his own license to kill. He's the rogue outside of MI5, and of course now we actually give that idea to the word entrepreneur. Right? Entrepreneur means what? The person who goes it alone, the Elon Musks of the world, that kind of track their own place out there outside of what the team construct is. And eventually what happens is that creates a real confusion, especially when it comes to management. Because at the end of the day, you have to pull the team together if it is to be a team. And that creates a management paradox. Now, when you think about what has happened, current management methodology is one of the things I've got the biggest problem with, is because it's still a methodology and a paradigm from the 19th century when trains were meant to run on time, and then Henry Ford created his factories where everybody did one particular thing, and then the manager essentially just made sure that you did that one particular thing all the time and kept pace. And then, of course, after World War II, what we saw that happened in Japan, which from the philosophies of Edwards Deming, when he brought the idea of a just-in-time methodology, and they created this concept called Kaizen. And Kaizen is this very slow and very organic approach to creation, right? And all the team members are now organized in a much different way than they are from the typical top-down paradigm. And so we have these together that are now hand in hand with each other in modern day in 2019, and across the liquor industry, which is probably the most diverse of all the industries that I've worked in, where you have top-down management with a very flattened-out management, and these are actually coexisting at the exact same time. And the problem always is, at the end of the day, is how do you keep people focused? How do you keep them working together and not working apart from each other, but at the same time moving the policies or the objective of the organization forward while maintaining for them the sense of individuality that we all need and we all demand now in the early 21st century. So in order to typify this, I wanted to go back to one of my early days. I was trained as an actor for many years as a professional actor in New York, Los Angeles, and around the United States. Anybody that would give me a stage, I would get up there. But I saw in theater, when you're trained in theater, you're trained in the ultimate collaborative effort. When you go on stage, what you're seeing there is weeks and months of work in order for a group of individuals, highly individualistic individuals, to work together as a particular unit. And this was typified for me, and for this day, 35 years later, this still rings in the back of my head as one of the best examples of this. I went to go see a play that a friend of mine produced, and he produced it in the woods. And we got on a bus outside of New York City, and we went to the woods in New Jersey, and we walked down the path. And as we came down the path, we encountered the play in the path. And it was really magical. And we were watching the players in this natural setting doing this play. And then all of a sudden, of course, this is now the sun is starting to set. And of course, I'm thinking, now what? At what point do we just lose this? But the director did something absolutely brilliant. He mounted a flashlight on everyone's head. So when it got dark, everyone who was speaking was focused by everybody else in the cast, so that all the focus was on that person. And when then that person spoke, we all focused over there. And when that person spoke, everyone focused over there. And it was this brilliant example of how teams work together to focus the individual, knowing full well the trust that it was going to come back to them as well.